Today we're diving into the dusty streets of Park City, Montana, where a quiet morning in 1953 erupted into a tale of vengeance, irrigation feuds, and a .45 revolver, a story scratched into journals and splashed across headlines. From Masonic brothers to a body on a football field, this is a snapshot of a community rattled by murder and stitched together by its raw, unfiltered past. So grab a seat and let's unravel the gritty threads of one of Park City's darkest mornings. This is the Big Fat Podcast and our They Gazed on the Beartooths series, where we dig into the stories that shaped our corner of Montana, in partnership with the Museum of the Beartooths and made possible by our sponsor, Pinnacle Property of Montana. If at some point you feel we've brought you value, go ahead and hit that like button. Consider subscribing if you haven't already, and share this episode with your history-loving friends. Penny, thank you for coming back in studio. Better show you over there because if you don't make a sound.
Got to make a sound first, huh?
Right.
That way it auto switches.
That's
So
right.
Everybody knows who's here.
Cole from Chasing the Wild Outdoors. He's representing
that.
well. Look at that.
Good morning.
Good morning. Okay, so today we have kind of doing a new take or a new format here. What we're going to start off with is you've got some, we were going to start off with some news on this day. Is that what you have prepared right now, or are you going straight to that bigger story?
I'm going straight to this story, and you'll see why.
Okay. All right. Put
It's a
everything else on
surprise.
hold. Oh, nice.
I'm out ready for a surprise.
I'm ready for a surprise as well. Okay, well then I'm going to go just cut to you, and we're going to need the overhead cam, right, for this?
In a minute.
Okay.
Maybe start out first.
Okay, let's go. What you got over there?
What do I have over here? So one of my favorite parts of my job is research and figuring things out, reading things that we have in the collections and trying to put it all together. So back in 2019, Ray Wells, who passed away in a hunting accident last year, in 2019 he gave us his grandfather, Finch Brown's collection. And there's over 50 years of journals, photographs,
Wow.
all kinds of stuff. And in the journals, which I just happened to open up in 2019 to the page that I have open here.
I'm going to flip over to that so we can see that.
So I'll show you the front of it here. It says Finch and Mary on the front in 1953. Anyway, Ray and I were standing there and I opened this up, and for some reason I looked at this July 11th, 1953 entry that Finch Brown had written in this journal. Is it all right if I go ahead and read it?
Yeah, let's get to that.
Walt Caine came over. His name is spelled C-A-N-E, which you can probably see. Came up just as I got up at 4:45. Said he had killed a man, and said he better give himself up. I told him he had, and asked who he killed, and he said Lesher. I told him to go to Sands and tell him. He is the deputy here, what he had done, and he would get the sheriff from Columbus, the undertaker. I got my clothes on, went down to Caine's, and stayed there until the sheriff came and got him. These journals are a little hard to read because
Yeah.
of the punctuation and whatnot isn't exactly what we see today. So continued on the next page, Lesher was laying in the corner of the school's football field that is the northwest corner just across the fence from Caine's, shot dead. It didn't look like he ever kicked. Cashmore and the sheriff Cober and the county attorney came. We loaded Lesher in the dead wagon and I came home. Then he just goes on to say, I went down to Stories.
What's the dead wagon? They just had a wagon for the dead? And this is in the 1950s.
53, yeah. So I would imagine it probably could be called the same thing that you guys use today, right?
Well,
Like,
we use
was it
we use
the,
a corner. We usually use a corner van now. I mean, if it can get
So is that what he was just calling the dead wagon?
probably
Okay.
corner van or
Sounds like trucker talk on the radio. On truckers are like, here comes a meat wagon with the discos on, is what they'll call an ambulance.
right.
Anyway, but that's what that sounds
Yeah, I bet it is. I bet like it's a corner vehicle
like. Okay.
or one of the deputies' vehicles or something like that. That they normally you put the body in a body bag after you do your investigation there on scene, and then you load it up and take it to the funeral home or whatever next. Whatever the process is for the family after that. So
I love these journals, though, because they tell it like it was.
yeah, but I'm gonna start using that at work. Be like, go ahead and send the dead wagon, please. See what they say.
Yeah. Try to get some reactions. That'd be awesome.
Well, if we're not having fun with what we do,
Right. Why are we doing it?
why are we doing it?
Yeah. Now this is all in Park City, correct?
This is in Park
That's
City.
right. Okay.
So just a little background on Finch Brown. He supposedly, don't know if I can use the political correct term today, but he claims he was the first white guy born in Park City.
Huh.
So
So he was an old timer.
Yes. So, and Ray, that just passed away, was living in his grandfather's house there just north of the interstate. So, big 2-story house.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I didn't mean to interrupt you there on that line up there where it says, shot dead. We loaded him in the dead wagon and I came home. So pick up there.
So then he just goes on to continue and say, well, went down to Stories and put a few sticks of dynamite in one of the springs.
Because that's just what you do
right?
Right.
after loading up somebody in the dead wagon.
Right. And then he bought a cake for the Saddle Club dance for 75 cents. And Charlie Eastlick came up after supper, and we took the cake to the clubhouse and then went up to the dry ranch. Hot all day.
And hey, that was worth documenting.
Yeah.
In 75 cents. It's all just like, here's this happened, loaded the dead wagon, then went and did this.
But I had to go.
Loaded some dynamite into something, which I picked up at the hardware store probably.
Had to open up the irrigation ditches, so nothing like dropping a little dynamite in them and doing your job.
Yeah.
So what was the relationship with Caine and Finch? Like, were they really good friends or something? Is that why Caine went over there?
I would guess they were friends.
Yeah.
Or
was like Finch like the guy in Park City that everybody went to, kind of like the de facto mayor of the town.
Well, I can actually add to that. I don't mean to cut you off unless you had something else. I can add a little to that. I have I got some. Okay, this is actually from 1924. Walter Caine and Archie Wilson will probably receive the largest checks for their 1924 crop of any Treasure County grower, each check amounting to over $3,000. Anyway, this is showing him some of the farming stuff he's mentioned in the paper right there. Let me find him. And F.R. Brown, this is in May 12th of 1949 in the Columbus News. F.R. Brown, A.O. Nelson, Alan Hansford, Walter Caine, J.L. Kiefer, and Owen Ketchum attended the Masonic meeting at Laurel Monday evening. So they were Masonic brothers, is that what they call it? So,
yeah. And
there's several of those. So here's 1949, Walter Caine. This is in the Columbus News, Thursday, November 3rd, 1949. Walter Caine had a serious operation at the Columbus Hospital last week. The Park City friends of Mr. Caine are happy to know of his rapid recovery. Mrs. Walter Caine, Mr. and Mrs. E. Vandersnick, Miss Mildred Vandersnick, M.W. Franzen, and Mrs. R.W. Davis were among the callers Monday, 3 of Mr. Caine's fraternal brothers, F.R. Brown, A.O. Nelson and R.W. Davis were visitors of Mr. Caine.
Huh. So they were Masonic brothers.
Yes.
Now that makes a whole bunch of sense why he was over there at 4:45 in the morning. Be like, hey, I just killed a guy.
Right.
Interesting. Huh.
And then Thursday, June 30th, 1949, in the Columbus News, Walter Caine, accompanied by John Kelly and Bob Pinkerton, both of Red Lodge, took 2 truckloads of hay to Forsyth during the week. Now, that column goes on down just of random news.
Right.
Okay. And then it starts another column of like little paragraph things of random news. And in the next column, it says A.O. Nelson, Alan Hansford, Owen Ketchum, F.R. Brown, and Walter Caine, and Joe Hansford of Bozeman attended the Masonic meeting at Laurel Monday evening. So, and there was probably 4 or 5 more of those I could have printed.
Yeah.
I stopped printing those because every time these guys went to a meeting, it made the paper. So there you go. There's a connection there going back years between Finch Brown and Walter Caine.
Huh.
You know what I think? I think I've got you hooked on looking in these newspapers for things.
Oh yeah, I spent hours
Yeah.
on this.
So I've got his login information stuff, and I'll look up, I'll be reading something in one of the books or whatever, one of the history books, and then I'll be like, I wonder if there's a news article about that, and then I'll be on there for like 3 hours, and I just get into it.
So interesting.
It is so cool.
Because you go down rabbit holes.
Yep.
Another.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So another little funny story on this is I was in a meeting in Park City, and I took Finch Brown's journal. That's why I've got the yellow sticky notes on it. And I read that article or that entry from that journal, and one of the other Park City people had brought the newspaper article about Caine killing Lesher.
Wow.
And we did not coordinate that at all.
Wow.
That's cool.
That is.
So
Serendipitous.
So
Look at that
before
big
we
word.
get up to the happenings on the news there, here's also from 1949, January 13th. Walter Caine said Monday, this is the Columbus News. Walter Caine said Monday he had not told his chickens about the storm. He just turns on the light and keeps the coop warm, so the old hens think it's spring as they work together and sing.
That was in the newspaper.
That was in the newspaper.
and that was probably Annan writing that.
In 40. When was that one?
That's 1949.
49.
Yep. Okay. Back to you, Penny.
Back to me. So then, July 16, 1953, the Columbus News, Caine enters guilty plea to second-degree murder. And on the same front cover is Lesher's funeral services at Park City tomorrow. So
that's out of the Columbus News?
Yes.
And what was the date on that one?
July 16, 1953.
Okay.
And I won't read the whole thing because it even continues on a next page, but it says the coroner's inquest was held at 3 p.m. Monday in the Stillwater County Courthouse as a result of a fatal shooting in Park City Saturday morning, July 11th, at which time Lester Lesher, 60, was killed by gunshot wounds at the hands of Walter Eugene Caine, 66. Coroner Howard Cashmore was in charge of the inquest, and County Attorney Henry I. Grant Jr. was the prosecuting attorney. Both men were ranchers in the Park City area, and the shooting apparently climaxed several years of ill feeling between the two men, but no direct cause for the slaying has been given. Caine was present at the inquest, but did not testify. So then it says the first witness called by Attorney Grant was Finch Brown of Park City. He testified that Mr. Caine came to his house at 4:45 a.m. Saturday morning and said that he had killed a man and thought he had better go and give himself up. Mr. Brown said he thought that was the thing to do and asked Caine whom he killed, and he told him Lester Lesher. So, just write it down in a journal, and then you have the exact time
Right.
to post in the paper, right?
Yeah. That's incredible.
So then it goes on about Fred Sands, a Park City deputy sheriff, was the next witness, and then Sheriff Kober was the next one after that. Sheriff Kober replied he examined the body by standing over it, and there were several bullet holes from a .45 caliber revolver, which was the cause of death. Mr. Caine said nothing during the time. They then went to Billings to a detective's office where some detailed investigations were made, which Stillwater County has no facilities for. Caine was placed in the Yellowstone County Jail.
45 revolver. So that would have been like a cowboy pistol back then. Because what else in a 45 was a revolver? Typically, there was a lot of revolvers back then that were 38 or 357.
Probably long Colt, 45 long Colt.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, would be my guess. Interesting. I do like Sheriff Kober just stood over him, noticed a bunch of bullet holes made by a .45 caliber revolver. That's the cause of death.
Yeah.
Pretty much investigation over.
Done deal. We better get this to forensics.
Yeah.
So then it goes on and says Miss Mildred Vandersnick of Park City was the next witness called. She testified that she was awakened about 4:30 Saturday morning by 2 sharp explosions to the west of her home, and that she thought they were gunshots. So there's that Vandersnick name again.
Yeah, we saw that
that they were friends with. Mr. and Mrs. Carl Lay of Park City were called to the stand and testified that they were awakened by 4 distinct shots about 20 minutes to 5 Saturday morning. Their bedroom is on the south facing the Caine property, about 2 blocks from it. Mr. Lay reported that the shots were not fired in rapid order. There was time between each shot. And then Mrs. John Sennett, Sennitt, next testified that she lives across the road from the Caines and heard what she thought was firecrackers about 4:30 Saturday morning. She heard 5 or 6 explosions, but thought it was children having fun and didn't pay any more attention.
Which makes sense. It was July, this came out July 16th. So can't remember what day it happened on. The 11th?
11th.
The 11th.
Okay, so yeah, makes sense that, people here fire fireworks a week or 2 ahead and after the 4th of July.
And then we have Dr. J.V. Neville was the next witness called to the stand and reported that the coroner's request, he had performed an autopsy on the body of Lester Lesher. He found multiple gunshot wounds around the chest, which he said were the cause of death. There were 4 distinct separate wounds, which consisted of 1 penetrating the body over the heart and severed the arteries above the heart, causing extensive bleeding on both sides of the chest. The bullet went through the vertebrae. The second bullet entered the right upper arm and went into the right armpit and through both lungs. There was also a gunshot wound in the abdomen near the navel and 1 in the left side of the chest. So then Finch Brown was called again to the stand, and when interrogated by Grant, said that the body was on school property about 15 feet from the fence dividing the property of Caine and the school property. The body was just south of the irrigation ditch near the fence gate. It was probably over water.
Think so?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think they mentioned there's that's what their speculation was that they had been feuding over irrigation rights, and that this went back years.
Now, my question is, the cop in me is like, why are we having this conversation prior to 4:30 in the morning? What are you out there doing that we're going to get into a gunfight at 4
changing the water, right?
Yeah.
He goes out there, and they said it wasn't, they didn't think it was premeditated, because he got charged with 2nd-degree murder.
Yeah.
Right? And so, and that the people had said, and I bet you I could find something here. I have, I'd have to look for it for a second, but I found some paper clippings. I don't know, out of other papers like Livingston and Billings and other places. And they said that, some people said that they believe this went back to a feud that had been long kind of bubbling over irrigation. So anyway, he probably goes out there, runs it, which is interesting that he's armed at that hour in the morning out there. But I guess that's nothing too rare. A lot of people, when they're going out checking whatever.
And still today.
To this day.
Yeah.
So runs into him out there and is mad that thinks he's taking his water or something, and when he should be watering or something.
Yeah.
I don't know if they had like irrigation ditches back then. Or
Yeah, they
ran
did.
it by pipe, or
they had ditches. They're still the irrigation ditch is still there. Or they're by the football field. So, yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So yeah. Got out there and argument started. Pop, 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 pop.
Mr. Caine decided he had enough of it, huh?
Wow.
What do you got over there, Penny? You were looking at something.
Well, the story's continued on the last page, and so it's kind of hard to find.
Page 8.
Yeah. Yeah, it just starts to say towards the end of the front page says, Kober said there was no evidence of a struggle, and the only object found at the scene was a shovel lying beside the deceased. So there's our clue for
the
irrigation.
Irrigation.
Mr. Caine was called on at this time to testify, but he did not choose to do so. He appeared very calm throughout the investigation. Paul Rosine was next called to the stand by Attorney Grant and said that he had identified the body of Lester Lesher at the Columbus Funeral Home, and that he had known the deceased for 20 to 25 years and knew it to be one Lester Lesher of Park City. When asked if he had seen the bullet wounds on the body, reported that he had. So then the jury, composed of Earl Knott, Chris Petosa, William Penman, John Banfill, Arthur Horsewood, and Arden S. Ryman, was then excused by the coroner Cashmore and retired to the jury room to consider the verdict. The verdict returned at 4 p.m., and the verdict was handed to Cashmore by the foreman, Earl Knott. It read, the said jurors upon the oath to say death by gunshot wounds at the hands of Walter Eugene Caine of Park City, Montana on July 11, 1953, 4 shots being in the body of Lester Lesher. Walter Caine was arraigned Wednesday morning before the District Judge Ben Harwood at the courtroom in Stillwater County Courthouse, Columbus. County Attorney Henry I. Grant Jr. had filed a second-degree murder charge against Caine, and he pleaded guilty to the charge. No date was set for a passing sentence. Caine is being held at the Stillwater County Jail pending sentencing. Judge Harwood of Billings will pass the sentence. Second-degree murder carries a minimum penalty of 10 years in the state penitentiary. The maximum would be 99 years. County Attorney Grant stated this morning.
Ba-bam. There you have it. So, do you have anything else on that over there?
No, we can move on to something else.
I have the sentencing.
Perfect.
Yes. Murder and mayhem in Park City, Montana. You forget about those kind of things happen, though.
Right.
You know, I mean, and the 50s really isn't that long ago.
Stillwater Rancher gets 15 years. Columbus Judge Ben Harwood's Tuesday sentenced Walter Eugene Caine, 66, to 15 years in prison for second-degree murder. Stillwater County District Judge said Caine took the law into his own hands in the July 11th shooting of Caine's farm neighbor, Lester Lesher, 60. Caine had pleaded guilty to the charge. The court said its findings showed that the shooting grew out of hatred that had developed in a dispute of many years over land irrigation at farms adjoined near Park City. Judge Harwood recounted Caine's story that he shot Lesher when he found Lesher on the Caine property to open an irrigation ditch. Dun, dun, dun.
Hey, I have a grandmother, she's been deceased for a long time, but she packed a gun with her when she went to
Really?
irrigate. And I'm surprised she didn't shoot her neighbor. So, you know, water
Oh, I know.
does it to people.
I mean, wasn't that a lot
Water
of the,
does it to people.
Yep.
The Lincoln County Range Wars in New Mexico? A lot of it stemmed around water back in the day there.
Yeah, there you go.
With Billy the Kid and all those guys.
Lincoln
LG
County
Murphy
Wars.
Company.
Yeah.
Yeah. That a lot of that stemmed with water being cut off to certain ranches and going to others.
There's our guy, Walter Eugene Caine, right there.
That's cool.
And then this right here is actually from August 13th of 1953. So I can't remember when the date was of sentencing, but then there's this. And if you'll see that at the bottom, it says Ida F. Caine, owner. And I believe that would be his wife. And this is an auction of their entire farm.
Really?
Yeah. She couldn't do it anymore.
Everything's listed right there.
Hmm.
And that's in August.
And when was he sentenced?
The sheet there you have showed his sentencing.
July 23rd, 53. We
Oh.
had some swift justice
oh man,
back
that was
then.
quick.
Yeah.
But then she's given up her whole farm in the next month?
August 13th, so 2 months after.
2 months after.
Right. And so back then, where would he have gone? He got 15 years.
He would have gone to Deer Lodge.
Okay. So
Yeah.
the only thing I could find later on was this. This is from the Columbus News, Thursday, June 22nd of 1961. Read that one, Penny.
The monthly report of the treasurer was examined and approved for filing. Also, reports from the library were filed. Platts number such and such and such and such were examined and approved for filing. The board authorized a commitment hearing to be held on Walter E. Caine at Warm Springs, Montana, by the District Court of Deer Lodge County at the expense of Stillwater County. Mr. Caine is being returned from a mental institution in Texas.
Huh. So between sentencing,
1953.
yep, and this article, he
Went to Deer Lodge, but then he went to Texas at some point.
Yeah.
And then coming
To a
back to
mental-
Warm
and
Springs.
then coming back to Warm Springs,
And where's Warm Springs?
Near,
in between Butte and Deer Lodge.
and
so-
it was, go ahead and tell them,
Oh, it's the mental hospital for
the state.
for the state, and it's been there for obviously forever.
It's still there?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, in my career I've taken individuals to Warm Springs that have been, they're like housed at Yellowstone County Detention Facility, and then they've got to go to Warm. The judge sends them to Warm Springs, and I've taken people to Warm Springs.
Huh.
Still, yeah.
So you're a part of that history.
I guess so. I am.
The story keeps going.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that they didn't say that in the newspaper articles until this, that
Yeah.
he
Was a
must
little
have
crazy.
pled insane or something.
Something, or he went crazy at Deer Lodge, and
I don't think I have a printing of it, but there was something that said that he reported that he had just returned home from visiting his mother in Texas. And then I think later on there was another article saying he had returned home from a funeral for his mother in Texas. So anyway, I don't know that ties together. Why would he be in a mental institution down in Texas? But you know what I mean? Like that's odd. Like if we have one here, why did they ship him to Texas?
well, there could be all sorts of reasons, but maybe he got furloughed to go to the funeral or something, or whatever. Back then, I think they still do it now. I remember we had a convicted individual that was serving time, and we had to take him to a funeral or something like that. So they still do the furloughs, but he could have got furloughed, went down there and went crazy. And instead of trying to get him back here, they just put him in a mental institution down in Texas until they could arrange transport or whatever up to Warm Springs. I don't know. I'm sure there's got to be some kind of records from Deer Lodge at the county over there. Somewhere. In some back closet in a museum over there.
Well, I never could find anything saying that he got released. I didn't see anything like that. I couldn't find anything else on him.
Maybe there's something in the sheriff's files. Here.
It might be. We'll have to look.
That's why I was asking you just a little bit ago. I was like, how far back do the sheriff's files go around here? Because I didn't know if that would appear there, but that's why I was like, because I lost him after 1961 or whatever that was.
Yeah, so if
we'll have to look in that correspondence.
Yeah.
That I have at the museum.
Yeah. When we were in there the other day, what year was that we were looking at?
Well,
because it was an individual that committed suicide by Rappeljay, and that had to be in the 60s.
Yeah, and that had to do with the coroner's register.
Yeah, because there was the coroner's register.
All that correspondence starts.
No, 70. That was 71 because we saw the article in the 71 paper, and then you brought out that correspondence, and there was pictures in there of it. So
we got all kinds of good stuff.
Yeah.
I wonder what happened to the 45.
I wonder.
I would imagine the sheriff's department confiscated it, but then
that would have been evidence.
But then in that, I don't know if it's listed in that auction.
Well, let's look.
Because
machinery, auto, livestock, feed and poultry. Household items. No
firearms, huh?
No firearms.
I mean, a lot of times after a case is adjudicated, the evidence, if the family doesn't want it, it usually just gets destroyed. Once in a while, it'll go to sheriff's auction, but something like that, I don't know. Could be. I mean, it got adjudicated, and the sheriff's office was like, well, I don't know what to do with this, and one of the deputies
took it home.
I don't know. I mean...
Well, the museum does have the gun that Robidoux shot Kuntz with.
Yeah, because it was always in the sheriff's office custody and in evidence.
Sheriff, can't say his name now, donated it to the museum. Greg Noose.
Oh, Greg Noose, yeah.
So, along with the hood and maybe it could still be in evidence.
Maybe it could be. Maybe we should look into that.
Yeah.
And then we can build up a new exhibit at the museum, the macabre side of Stillwater County.
Right.
And have all these stories in there.
So we've kind of focused mostly on Walter Caine, and mostly everything I found was on Walter Caine. I did find from the Laurel Outlook in 1934, January 17th, Florence Cole Otis, Lester Lesher wed. Special to the Laurel Outlook, Park City, January 17th. Mrs. Florence Cole Otis and Lester Lesher, both of Park City, were married in Billings Saturday afternoon at the M.E. Parsonage by Reverend Forrest Wirtz at 5 o'clock. The bride was attired in a navy blue wool suit and blue hat with matching accessories. The couple will make their home in Park City, where the groom lives on a small ranch, and at the bride's ranch north on Valley Creek. The couple have the best wishes of the community. Almost everybody.
What year was that?
1934.
When they got married. So they'd been married 30 plus years when this happened.
No.
20 plus years.
20, almost 20 years.
20 years.
19 years. And here in 1930, just before this, that was in 1934, Lester Lesher is in the paper in the Columbus News. And under it just says, "Astrayed, 2 mules, one coming 4 branded Lazy J's on right shoulder, 1 yearling bay horse mule with a diamond bar C on right thigh. $5 reward for information leading to the recovery. Lester Lesher, Park City, Montana." That's all I could find on him.
So are the Leshers, were they continually in Park City after this, or is that after the ranch auctioned off, that was pretty much it?
I would guess.
That would be Walter Caine's was auctioned
Walter
off.
I'm sorry, Walter Caine's.
Yeah.
And I know that there are still some Caines around, but I have not heard the Lesher name, so I don't know.
Yeah, I remember the name Lesher, but not Lesher. Interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah, that was a good story, good find.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah.
Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Super interesting. Like I said, I mean, you don't, I don't know, when you're thinking of history things, you're, like, I assume that was a big deal in the county. Probably even in Billings, between Billings, you know,
Right.
Bozeman. I mean, I'm sure it was like a big deal
So
in this whole area.
1 year before, I got to read one funny little thing. This was in the Columbus News, August 7th, 1952. So just a year before. And I can't remember who put this in there, if it was a Vandersnick. But it says, this is Columbus News, Wednesday I saw two pretty horses trotting side by side. Who was it? Finch Brown and Walter Caine, enjoying a good horseback ride. Both men swing into the saddle with an easy, quick stride. They are still young and slender and not fat and wide. The day was hot, the sun just burning, yet who cares about the weather when cowboys and horses are together?
Who wrote that?
That was in the Columbus News.
In what? In 52?
In 52, the year before.
Who was running the paper in 52?
I could try to find that. Well, it'd take me a minute, but I can't remember who it was up above that, or who. I can't remember if it said a name of who wrote that.
Oh.
But, yeah.
That's crazy.
They are still young and slender and not fat and wide.
I'm going to put that in my graduation speech when I talk to the kids at graduation.
Yeah. The day was hot, the sun just burning, yet who cares about the weather when cowboys and horses are together?
Still pretty Western out here in the 50s.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
thanks for bringing that, Penny. I didn't know anything about that in Park City, so that was cool.
Yeah, pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So, remember I mentioned Dr. J.V. Neville
Yes.
in that. So I've got another fun artifact that I brought.
Where did you get this artifact from? What?
So it was donated to the
Here.
museum in 2014.
Look at
Vodka.
that. Wait, I got to turn off this. Yeah, I want to make sure we can see this here. Bam. Look at that. What you got there?
Full bottle
It is.
of Jovene vodka. So John Vernon Neville made this vodka, and the J-O is for John, V-E, Vernon, and N-E for Neville. Came up with Jovene vodka. And from what I understand, people around here say his business was over here between Montana Silversmiths and Farmers Union.
I was going to ask you when when we saw that, where was the distillery? And I remember Barb Henderson told me a story once. And if you did you ever meet Barb Henderson? She passed away middle of last summer.
I don't think so.
So the Hendersons have been in this valley for a long time, but she was 96 when she passed away. And I'm really good friends with her grandson Terry. We grew up together, but she told me a story once of a distillery in Columbus, and I didn't even think about it again until you showed me that. And I was going to ask you this morning if that was possibly the distillery that was between the Silversmiths and Farmers Union.
That's it.
That's awesome.
What's on top of that bottle? There's a.
So this is
seal.
the state seal that's still there, and this is our tag system. So that's how we keep track of our inventory at the museum. And so I can go look up this 2014-2914 and find out who exactly gave it to the museum. And we actually have 2 full bottles of this. So
2.
Yeah.
Does anybody else out there have any full bottles of this?
Or even an unopened bottle, or open bottle that has still some in it.
Could you imagine? So tell us about this distillery and this vodka.
Well, I wish I knew more. I do have several of the labels like 2 stacks of labels that are like 4 inches high.
Yeah.
So we have used a couple of those for a fundraiser. I framed and matted them and sold them at auction. But Betty McQuarrie gave those.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember if Betty gave us the bottle of vodka or not, but different people have given us empty bottles and the 2 full bottles. So,
I wonder if it'd be kind of cool to take those labels and take a high resolution photo of them and basically do a recreation on a decal.
Oh, that'd be cool.
or a sticker or
Yeah,
something.
that's what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
like you could actually have a vinyl decal of it and then
Yeah.
just put something like in the corner, Museum of the Beartooths or something, so it doesn't look like it's just fully just that. But by turning that into,
That'd be good advertising for the museum.
Yeah.
I don't wonder. I wonder what other kind of little item thing like that you could do because
Right.
people love stickers and
Stickers, yeah.
decals and.
Yeah.
Because I was
I
going
don't
to
know.
say, man, I want one of those labels just because.
I know, that's what I was thinking. I
Right.
was
Yeah.
like, yeah, we should. I don't know, but then I thought, oh, why not just take a good photo of it and have it,
And then
so we don't have to lose those labels.
But for
Yeah.
like the Brew Fest,
Oh, yeah.
people could grab one of those. We could make a sticker out of that label, and
Mm-hmm.
people could grab them for the Brew Fest.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
Stick them on their water bottles, and then there's advertising for the museum forever.
Forever.
I think it's funny that it says at the bottom, distilled from American grain. Now we're so
Yeah.
into American products, or a lot of people are into American products. And right here on the bottom, it says distilled from American grain, which I'd like to find the records to this. Who did he buy the grain from?
I wonder. Probably out. I would think
Lester
Rapplejay.
Lesher.
Well, or out north in Rapplejay.
Well, and I think Dr. Neville had some property out there, so maybe he grew his own.
Yeah. So when was this made?
That I would like to know as well. I'd like to know more, and I'm sure there's people around Columbus that know more about this than I do.
So I bet you, couldn't we then, if there's a state seal on there, wouldn't the state liquor department or something have a record of?
Maybe.
That's a
Maybe.
project.
Another project. We have a
Another
lot of them.
project. So, like, back when I was in school, we did a project with the Montana Historical Society and the museum, and we are in Montana history, and each of us, there was me, like Kagan Harshaw was in that class. He's the head guy at Q2 News Now in Billings, but we all had projects to do from the local area that was in conjunction with the museum and the Montana Historical Society. And my project was working, we interviewed and talked to people that knew about Crow Agency when it was down south of Absaroka. But like there was other sorts of projects that we did. And at one time, we used to have all of our research was at the museum. I don't know if it's at the high school now or if it's at the Historical Society in Helena or if it's still at the museum somewhere.
Do you have a copy of
I don't
your
know.
research?
My mom might have it in a box somewhere.
You need to ask her, because
I
I would
should.
love to have that at the museum.
I should, but I remember we interviewed some old Crow Indian men whose like parents were or grandparents were at the Crow Agency. I remember doing that, but we did stuff all about Stillwater County. Like I know one of the projects I think was Main Street in Columbus, and they talked about having the speakeasies, the saloons, the House of Ill Repute upstairs and one of the buildings and all. I mean, we did all sorts of stuff. It was a whole, and I think Hicks was our history teacher, and he was the one that put it all together for us. But so like projects like that, I think would be great for like the high school history class.
Mm-hmm.
Like learn about this distillery that we had here in Columbus for a
Right.
while that made vodka.
Yep.
So
I did pull up Dr. Neville's obituary. He died in 1969 at the age of 67. Doesn't say a whole lot about him. He's buried here in the Mountain View Cemetery. He died in Billings in the hospital May 29th. And pallbearers were Henry Grant Jr., which we just read about Grant being the attorney.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All these people are all connected. Anyway, and then Paul Kober.
Sheriff, right?
Yep.
Yep.
David Matovich, Gerard Walterman, and John W. Finch and T.P. Mulvihill. Most of the movers and shakers in Columbus.
Yeah.
For several years.
So he died in... When did Neville die?
In Billings, May 29th of 69.
So I'm wondering if that vodka was made when he was in his 20s and 30s? Maybe? So...
I don't know. There's a lot of people, like... I know I've talked to Corky Kim and Alan Drain and some other people that knew about this. So,
well, obviously Barb Henderson knew about it.
Right?
Gosh, now I wish I would have picked her brain on it. Back when I was 14, 15 years old when she talked about it. Oh, we talked about Jeremiah Johnson. She has, and I don't know, we have to talk to Dennis and Terry, but she had a picture of John Johnston when he was constable in Red Lodge. I don't know if it was original or not, but she showed it to me one time, and I geeked out for like months. I mean, I was John Johnston for Halloween for like years, and Davy Crockett. It was like my favorite character until I learned about Tom LaForge and Bill Hamilton and Luther Kelly. But
so it might be Tom LaForge this year for Halloween?
I'm going to dress up as Tom LaForge for Halloween. And I'm going to my name's going to be Horse Rider.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a great name.
It's funny that you said Jeremiah Johnson first.
He always calls him Jeremiah Johnson.
I always do.
And
that's how everybody knows who he is.
It's because of Hollywood.
Yeah, Robert Redford's movie.
Yeah, because his name was John, like you mentioned second.
Yeah,
but
John Johnston.
Because of Hollywood.
He helped hew the logs for the Countryman Hotel. That's right out of Annan's book.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow.
So we have a project now, and it's researching that vodka.
Hey, you're our lead investigator over there.
I am not a detective at the sheriff's office, but we have two of them.
Wow.
I'm a historical sleuth, though.
Yeah, there you go.
That's what we are.
Right. That's what I feel like when I'm here late at night on the computer, clicking through newspapers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, what you got over there, Penny?
Well, I thought it'd be fun to bring a paper. This is March 13 of 1975. Just 50 years ago, right?
Yeah.
It's like crazy that, and it's fun to look at this stuff for me because it seems like there's several stories sometimes that are similar to today's stories that are in the paper. So here we have a math mobile in Columbus.
Math mobile.
Yeah. The math mobile is in Stillwater County, stationed at Columbus High School and open to all teachers throughout the area. Math mobile is operated under the Montana Council of Teachers grant from the National Council. Let's see. 4 such grants given last year to the United States and Canada. Dan Dolan, Columbus, is president-elect of the Montana Council of Teachers of Mathematics. So then it goes on. But it's just, we've heard of a bookmobile, but now back then they had a math mobile.
And what year was this?
This is 1975, March 13th.
Okay.
So almost exactly 50 years ago.
Yeah.
So, and back then, Sheriff F.E. Gene Brown announced that the sheriff's office will commence handling cattle inspections, shipping permits, and horse inspections at the Stillwater County Courthouse from 8 a.m. until dark, 7 days a week.
Yay. Glad we don't do that anymore. We still do shipping. Like when people are taking stuff to Pays and they got to have the
permit.
The haul permit, we still issue permits. But we don't do inspections anymore as far as...
Yeah, that's a livestock inspector.
That's a livestock inspector deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then bowlers get prize money. Executives view Columbus Canvas Plant, which is kind of an interesting thing. In Columbus last week, to look over the new facility of the Columbus Canvas and Manufacturing Company, where Willie Williamson, general manager of I'm not sure how to pronounce this, Leachy Mobile Homes, Jamestown, North Dakota, John King, the regional manager, Winnebago Industries, Inc., Forest City, Iowa, and Bob Unterscher, the coordinator for Charity, Columbus. According to Harold and Daryl, maybe Columbus Canvas will begin moving in equipment Saturday. There will be 3 production points, one for each of the 3 lines of cap pickup covers that Columbus Canvas assembles, all aluminum, thermal, panel, and super cap. Anticipated production rate, once everything is set up and debugged, in quotes, is 80 units per month. They'll also in production points for canvas products for furniture, reupholstery. There's a strong possibility too the Columbus Canvas plant will house the final production point of line custom furniture. So this is in the Napa building.
This is in the Napa building.
Yes, in 1975.
Huh. Interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
I was only 7 years from being born. I was almost alive.
I was 1.
You won?
I was 1.
Not in Montana, though.
Penny was 5 years from being alive.
Gee, thank you.
Just took a stab.
Thank you. I knew I liked you.
No.
Then there's also another article about a full-time, part-time job by Mayor Bill Yeager, Information Officer, Montana National Guard. Not many folks can claim a part-time job for which carries more responsibility than their full-time occupation. Dwayne Storr, Columbus, is one. Storr is a rural mail carrier and the owner of heating and air conditioning business in Columbus. On weekends, he dons olive drab fatigues and black combat boots. He becomes Lieutenant Colonel Dwayne Storr, commander of the 1st Squadron of the 163rd Armored Cavalry based in Billings. As such, he's responsible for 885 guardsmen and women, plus millions of dollars worth of military equipment.
Cool.
Yeah. Just kind of a variety of things from 50 years ago.
Yeah, that is interesting.
And names of people that we recognize as well.
Yep. I recognize quite a few of those names.
Yeah.
So I found... so I went to this day, March 17th, 1955. And the big deal was over the weekend, there was a big masquerade ball in Absaroka, put on by the Absaroka Civic Club. Over 600 people attended this thing.
Whoa.
In Absaroka. And there was like 50 prizes donated for like best costume and stuff like that. And some of the costumes were pretty neat. And they listed everybody. I'm not going to go through everybody, but one of the top winners were, let me look here, I just had it. Mr. and Mrs. George Matovich, Columbus, dressed up as Indians. They won a case of beer from the Chrome Bar. Let me see who else was in here. Mr. and Mrs. George Pelton from Absaroka, Little Bo Peep and Bum. They won 5 pounds of butter from the dairy. That'd be I'd be happy with that over the beer today. Let's see. Joe Brown and Kay Aber from Columbus dressed up as monkeys. They won a $5 gift card. And Bob Farmstead and Lyle Reed, they were accident cases. Not really sure what you dress up as accident cases would be, but they got a $5 gift card to the Outdoor and Supply Store in Columbus.
That would be like a $50 gift card today.
Yeah.
Right? Wouldn't you think? Yeah. Now I'm curious.
Chuck George was a penguin, and he won a ham from Pierce Packing Company. But I mean, I was just thinking 600 people showed up for this thing in Absaroka over the weekend for the masquerade ball. The only other thing that brings that many people in that area would be the barbecue cook-off.
That's right.
You know, but 600 people over the weekend in 55. And then the Art Davis, He's a Yellowstone bank cashier and member of the organizational reserves in the Army. He jarred the Columbus Kiwanis Club because he talked about biological warfare and the threat of nuclear and biological warfare and how Columbus can prepare itself for it. Oh, yeah. Yep, for chemical warfare. Davis discussed the new gases of unbelievable potency that have been discovered and that are invisible and nearly odorless. Once these gases have taken effect, there's very little chance for victims' recovery. Talked about germ warfare. This was all in Columbus at the Kiwanis meeting. The atom bomb was listed by Davis as an important example of radiological warfare. Despite widespread fears of nuclear radiation, he maintained that the most damage done by a bomb was through its heat and blast. He talked about possibly having World War III in here too. Let me find it.
And this was all, several years before the Cuban Missile Crisis. But
yeah,
I mean, these were the things that they were starting to be concerned with in the new age.
Yes. Right here, in answer to the question is what can be done in preparation for such warfare, chemical, biological, nuclear. Davis suggested that Americans maintain their physical fitness, promote personal and public hygiene and sanitation, keep up immunizations against possible epidemic diseases, gain an understanding of the new war innovations, be well informed, join and promote activities for public safety, and he suggested citizens prevent any fifth column activities. I don't know what that is yet, what fifth column activities are, as they may prevent any fifth column activities they may notice, and discourage defeatism, and above all, promote Americanism. So in 1955, we're shaking the Kiwanis Club about biological and nuclear warfare. So I thought that was kind of an interesting article.
What was that called? Fifth column what?
Fifth column, prevent any fifth column activities they may notice. So wouldn't that be, I was thinking maybe communism, because that was, they started talking about communism a little bit there. When was the McCarthy hearings?
Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Fifth column activities refers to actions taken by a group of people within a larger group or nation to undermine it from the inside, typically in support of an external enemy or rival. The term originates from the Spanish Civil War when General Emilio Mola, I don't know how that's reportedly claimed that in addition to his 4 military columns advancing on Madrid, he had a fifth column of sympathizers within the city, working to destabilize the Republican government. These activities can take various forms depending on the context and goals of the group. They are often covert but can sometimes be overt. Here are 5 key types of fifth column activities. Sabotage, then it explains that. Disinformation and propaganda. Number 3 is espionage. Number 4 is subversion. And number 5 is terrorism or insurrection.
There's a thumbnail for another live stream for us.
Yeah, right.
Fifth column.
Fifth column activities.
Yep. But in here I did find the World War III stuff. David reminded his listeners that in travel time in the world today, 1955, Moscow is now no farther from the United States than New York City from Albany was during the Revolutionary War times. So even in 55, they were starting to worry about Russia.
Wow.
So, I don't know, that was interesting. I mean, here, the very first article is about this 600, gala masquerade, and then two columns over on page 1, we're talking about possible World War III and how to prevent it.
Wow.
In Columbus.
That's crazy. I did look up as well that a $5 gift card as a prize would be worth approximately $57.85 today. So I wasn't too far off saying that'd be like a $50 gift card today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
who knew? So that was this day in history in Stillwater County in 1955.
That's interesting. That is interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
They must have really been into masquerade stuff back then, because it's in this paper in 75 as well.
I noticed in doing, when we were looking on Wednesday through the old paper from 71 and looking through this, when I go down rabbit holes, there was a huge sense of community. And I'm sure it was the same all over the U.S. But I mean, in the paper, even when we were looking at the Tri-County News from the turn of the century, from the 1890s, when we were first getting formed in this area, first getting settled, or expansion, I guess, in this area, the sense of community was just crazy. Like, there was a dozen things a week, from this club putting on this, that club putting on this, and everybody showed up to these things. And now, sometimes it's just like they had the adult prom as a fundraiser for the senior class. I think there was like 20 people.
Really?
Yeah.
I was wondering about that.
Sometimes it's really tough to get people involved. But there was basketball tournaments and there was something else going on, and that was understandable. But 600 people showing up to a masquerade ball in Absaroka, it's a big deal, especially in 55.
They weren't streaming Netflix back then.
That's true.
So, were you in FFA?
Mm-hmm.
Were you ever part of a slave auction?
Yep. I sure was.
Here's a 1975 article in this paper, which I don't know if I can get it in the
shot.
Shot, maybe. Is it in there?
Okay.
Right here. March 21st, 75, 8 p.m., Columbus High School multipurpose room. The Columbus FFA chapter will sell at auction the following members. Has their age, weight, and height.
Can they not do that anymore?
No, we still do.
It's called something else, isn't it?
Yeah, it's called something else. Not a slave auction, but Absaroka did it last year. And is it Brian Young? He's the auctioneer down there. He was at the gym and he did the whole thing, and they auctioned off a bunch of kids to local ranchers to work for the day.
Oh my God!
Yeah, it's a good fundraiser.
No, I don't doubt it.
My husband said he was auctioned off all the time too in FFA, and there was always certain ranchers that bought them because they'd make them work for the day or whatever, and sometimes bring them beer, which you wouldn't do today. But
allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly.
Come
right?
on now.
But it's just kind of funny because it's got them all listed: seniors, juniors, sophomores, freshmen. Yeah.
Does it show what they went for?
No, it does not.
Oh, man.
But
it has their stats, though, like their age, their height, weight. That's
seniors,
so funny.
Seniors then were...
Do you recognize any names in there?
Yeah, Fred Bachma, Terry Gostad, Greg Meyer, Arden Newman were seniors. Juniors, some of the names: Ron Kewen, Mitch Lenning, Kevin Campinen, Steve Rowan, Don Parks, Tony Binnick.
If anybody knows those people today, go and ask them what they
went. I'm going to ask Greg. Greg's boys graduated same time I did. I have his friend, and his youngest son was named Cole, just like me. So we were destined to be friends growing up because we had the same name.
There you go.
Meant to be.
And Dan Patterson, he was a sophomore.
He was a sophomore, 75?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yep. And we have Jim Noble, Terry Hansen, Larry Heffron. Let's see if there's some other freshmen. There's a Brad Henderson, Wayne Blaylock.
I just think it's cool that FFA's been around that long, and it's still a big deal.
It's been around forever.
And the kids, there's always kids are gone from schools every week with FFA stuff, with stuff going on. I'm sporting my new Stillwater. I should have wore it today. I'll wear it to the next one. My Stillwater Valley FFA shirt.
Yeah.
I bought him a shirt when they were doing a fundraiser this couple months ago.
Huh.
Yeah, 4-H and FFA, I say often that that's how I got to where I am at, is because of those two organizations.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish they would push those a little bit more. Everything's so sports-oriented in schools right now, but like FFA, 4-H, BPA, those are things that the skills you learn in those programs, you can use for your entire life.
Yeah, for sure.
So not knocking anything against sports, but I loved FFA growing up. It was fun.
And you probably saw the Stillwater County News this last week when they did a big article about Columbus's Tim Loafing.
Yeah.
going to New York and Hollywood and whatnot, and he had Mr. Miller as a teacher when he was here as a new teacher.
Yeah. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fun
You never
stuff.
did FFA or any of those?
I didn't. No, I didn't. We had it. It was, I was down in Southern Nevada.
Yeah.
And, I don't know. It wasn't as big of a thing, I would say, but it was there. I think my sister was in it like 1 year or something. Yeah. My older sister, but no, I wasn't in that stuff.
Yeah.
You saw it. There was a few kids that were in it, but it wasn't as big of a deal.
Yeah.
I do know my mom has either she gave it to me and I have it, but I have my FFA jacket and my Green Hand Award that I won. Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have my Green Hand Award
Do you?
that I won too.
Nice.
But my jacket, I think, was handed down to my sister, which I'm sure she still has it. But
Yeah.
I was actually FFA Sweetheart, which is not a thing anymore. I'm dating myself.
Yeah.
And we had a white jacket.
Oh,
A white
whoa.
one.
Yes,
Do you have the jacket?
I do.
That needs to go in the museum. Oh, go ahead.
Unfortunately, it has blood stains on the front of it because I still get bloody noses quite often. And a white FFA jacket, come on.
Wow.
Right.
Ha.
Do you have any old FFA stuff in the museum?
No.
So there you go. If anybody has some old FFA stuff from Stillwater County,
Yeah.
the museum's looking for some stuff.
We have a lot of
The museum's looking for some stuff.
we have a lot of 4-H stuff,
Yeah.
but no FFA.
I encouraged my kids, though, when they were up here in school, I can't remember what they were in. They were in FFA or 4-H or something. I can't remember what they were in.
No.
I remember them going to, I don't know, something they had to travel to or something in Billings or something.
So Dan Miller did talk to me probably 2 years ago. He's got all the books that I don't know if they were for several years or what, but the FFA group would put together a scrapbook,
Yeah.
and he was going to give those to the museum.
Oh, that'd be cool.
And they go way back, so that'd be a fun thing because that'd be
Yeah.
all the history and photographs and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, like,
Wow.
really important organization.
it is. I mean, that's, Rapple J kids, Reed Point kids, Absorki kids, Columbus, Park City. Every school around here has FFA, and a lot of kids are involved in it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Wow.
And it's interesting, too, that they're still doing livestock judging. And that's what I did when I was in FFA and 4-H and actually had a scholarship for college for livestock judging and was on the Powell livestock team.
nice.
So, yeah, not that I judge animals anymore, but public speaking was
Mhm.
part of it. You had to give a set of reasons.
Yeah. See, I did public speaking in FFA, and I did it in BPA, and I ended up getting third place in the United States. In
Nice.
Wow.
BPA, my junior year of high school for
What's-
public
What's BPA?
Business Professionals of America.
Huh.
So,
Yeah.
Wow.
Look at you.
Look at you.
yeah. Kagan Harsha got first that year, and I got third. So
That is cool.
two Montana kids go to the national competition in, it was in Pennsylvania. It was in Philadelphia. It was nationals either in Philadelphia or it was in New York City. I can't remember, but we went over there and I got third and first.
That'd have been cool.
Yeah,
That'd
So-
be a fun trip.
it was cool. It was a fun trip. We had to raise money to go over there. We went to New York. We went to Six Flags in New Jersey. Went to Philadelphia. That was the first time I got to see all the America history stuff, the Liberty Bell and everything like that. So, dude, it was a cool trip. It was fun.
Huh. That would have been cool.
Yeah. Now here I am back in Columbus, Montana.
Learn something new about Cole every day.
And Penny. I didn't know she was a
And
livestock
Penny.
judge.
Well,
And FFA Sweetheart.
I have
With
a,
a
I have
white
a few
jacket.
years on you.
Mm.
Wow. Well, today was a good one. Do you anybody else have anything else?
No,
Well, it was a good one. I like this format. All right.
I do too.
Well, cool. We'll do it again real soon.
Thanks, Milo, for putting these together,
Ah,
and Cole,
Yeah, dude, it's fun.
yes.
and
It's great.
being excited about history.
Yeah, well, thank you.
That is cool.
Well, thank you. Thank you for coming over here and doing this with us.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll do the music outro. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba.
This episode of the Big Fat Podcast in our They Gazed on the Beartooths series was brought to you by Pinnacle Property of Montana. Let Pinnacle Property of Montana help you make your Montana dream come true. Their contact information is below in the description. You can show your support by hitting that like button, subscribing if you haven't already, and sharing this episode with your history-loving friends. We'll see you next time.